been saying to a microphone that LeBron James to beat Michael Jordan in a one-on-one
match.
One-on-one?
Kobe Bryant should be in the GOAT conversation.
Michael Jordan est la GOAT. C'est Kareem Abdul-Jabbar est GOAT. LeBron James qui est la GOAT.
My GOAT? It's gonna sound crazy, but Kevin Durant.
It's April of 2019. The Athletic just released an anonymous NBA player poll, asking the perennial question that has cast a shadow over the league for the past decade. Who's the best player of all time? 73% of the 117 votes went to Michael Jordan. LeBron and Kobe left in the dust. 4 years later, they ran it back. 58% to MJ, LeBron and Kobe still trailing. Fast forward to 2024, and it's as close as it's ever been. MJ in the lead by just a few percentage points, but once again followed by LeBron and Kobe. Over the last 5 years, this trio has been solidified as the three-headed GOAT in the eyes of NBA players. But there's just one problem. There is not a universe where Kobe Bryant is the greatest basketball player of all time. There's two major flaws on his resume: accolades and leadership. Kobe wasn't the best player on his team for 3 of his 5 championships. He had Shaq. In his 20-year career, he won just 1 MVP, and his numbers don't exceed guys like LeBron and MJ. He was labeled as a selfish ball hog, refusing to pass to teammates who didn't have the right work ethic, and was viewed as a nuisance by the greatest coach of all time, culminating in the 2004 NBA Finals, where Kobe shot the Lakers out of the series in one of the biggest meltdowns we've ever seen from a superstar. He's an all-time great, but he isn't the GOAT, even if that's how NBA players see it. The question of who's the greatest of all time has always been subjective and opinionated. There's never been a right answer, only wrong ones. So today we'll focus on the dark side of this debate, making the case for each of these 8 players to not be the greatest of all time. Prepare for your GOAT to be exposed. Luck. Michael Jordan got lucky. When he and the Bulls began making their run, it was during a time of expansion. From 1988 to 1989, the NBA added teams in Charlotte, Miami, Minnesota, and Orlando, completely diluting the NBA's pool of talent. 60-plus players were added to the league, meaning weaker competition for a team like the Bulls. 2 years later, they win their first title and go on to three-peat. In 1995, the NBA expanded once again with Toronto and Vancouver. That same year, Chicago wins 72 games and they go on to three-peat with a far weaker path to the finals. Jordan played in a watered-down era, and this isn't some crazy theory. Dennis Rodman, who was on the Bulls at the time, said that the league was so filtered they can beat anybody with their eyes closed, a sentiment that was shared with Larry Bird and Jerry Sloan. MJ dominated at a time where the NBA lacked depth and skill. He got lucky, and he also hit the jackpot. Magic Johnson was forced into retirement at 31 years old. Due to injuries, Larry Bird was gone at 35. Isaiah Thomas called it quits at 32, and the guy who was supposed to be MJ's biggest rival died unexpectedly before ever stepping foot on an NBA floor. Jordan's toughest competitors were gone. The majority of his championships, scoring titles, and MVPs were won during a watered-down era without all-time greats. Jordan got lucky. Circumstance. Magic Johnson was blessed by being drafted onto a team that had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the tail end of his prime. I mean, having a top 5 player by your side is an advantage that none of these other greats have had. Magic didn't have to be the best player on his team to have a chance at winning. With 5 championships, he captured just 3 finals MVPs. In '85 it went to Kareem, and in '88 it went to Worthy. He was put into a perfect situation. And then his luck turned. Magic's career was cut short right in his prime. Had he not been forced into retirement, he would have climbed up the all-time scoring and passing ranks. He could have won more MVPs after having won 3 of the previous 5 prior to his retirement. Had Magic not been forced off the court, he would have had a legitimate chance of becoming the GOAT. His accolades are still great now, but when you stack them up against other contenders, he comes up short. They had time to grow their legacy. Magic never got the chance. Selfish. Wilt Chamberlain is and will always be known as a selfish basketball player who played for stats rather than winning. And ironically, there's a fascinating stat to back that up. Throughout his career, Wilt played in over 1,000 games and averaged an NBA record 45.8 minutes per game. You want to know the crazy part? He never fouled out. Not once. Now, you might be wondering what this has to do with Wilt being selfish and not being the GOAT. Well, John Havlicek, who played dozens of games against Wilt, has said that Chamberlain was so focused on never fouling out that he'd essentially change how he played to keep his streak alive. This is insane. How many games did he cheat his team out of by not giving his full effort? If you're the greatest of all time, your aggressiveness and will to win cannot be put into question. But with Wilt, it is. Hall of Famer Rick Barry just straight up called him a loser. He states that Chamberlain didn't want the ball in big moments and avoided the pressure. The numbers tell that story. Throughout his career, Wilt averaged 5 fewer points in the finals than he did in any other series. He also shot less with 4 fewer field goal attempts per game and fewer free throw attempts. The man seemingly cared more about his stats than he did anything else, except when it came time to win. Wilt Chamberlain is not the GOAT. Unfortunate. In my opinion, you can't deem a player as the greatest of all time for an incredible but short 9-year stretch. And that's where Larry Bird finds himself. Great numbers, 3 straight MVPs, championships, the whole 9 yards. But that was it. Years of diving for loose balls and slamming himself against the hardwood with his do-or-die style of play finally caught up to him. Injuries forced him into retirement and ripped away any chance he had of racking up more accolades and championships to put himself in the conversation with Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, or even Magic. Which brings me to my next point. There is a 0% chance that Larry Bird was the GOAT if he wasn't even the best player during his era. Magic had the same number of regular season MVPs, he beat Bird 2 out of 3 times in the finals, and has 5 championships to his 3. If you weren't the greatest during your time, a short amount of time at that, then you can't be the greatest. Teammates. Despite being one of the most decorated players in NBA history, winning 6 championships, 6 MVPs, and being the second all-time leading scorer, Kareem has a massive hole on his resume. He has never won a championship without an all-time great by his side. Kareem won his first title with Oscar Robertson, at the time, the greatest point guard ever. His next 5 championships were won with Magic, the greatest point guard of all time. Having Magic as his teammate hurts his legacy, the same way it hurts Magic's legacy to have Kareem as his teammate. No other greats have had the luxury of playing with another top 5 player of all time. And nobody has gotten the level of help that Kareem has with 2 of the 3 greatest point guards ever. The fact that he's won as many championships as Jordan has always been used to solidify his case as the GOAT, yet he won Finals MVP for just 2 of those 6 titles. In fact, in his final 4 championship runs, Kareem averaged just 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists in the finals. In a sense, he got carried. Era. That's all I gotta say. Bill Russell played at a time when the NBA was still in its infancy, and the competition was the lowest it's ever been. But it shouldn't matter, right? He has 11 rings. Well, his first 4 championships came when there were just 8 franchises in the NBA. Just by being a team at that time, you had a 12.5% chance of winning the championship, which is just absurd compared to the 4.3% when Magic and Bird played, 3.7% for Jordan's first 3 rings, or the 3.3% for LeBron in the 2000s. Bill had it easy. He won another 5 championships when there were just 9 teams, 1 title with 12 and another with 14. In fact, during this era, there were just 3 rounds during the playoffs due to the lack of franchises. And on top of that, the top team in each division got a bye for the first round. So for 8 of his 11 championships, Russell had to win just 2 playoff rounds per year to win the title. I mean, I could have won a title during that era. If you thought the 2024 Celtics had an easy path to the finals, Bill Russell was gifted championships during his era. 4 and 6. It's pretty simple. To be the greatest of all time, you cannot lose on the biggest stage more often than you win. Of these 8 potential GOATs, LeBron joins the notoriously selfish Wilt Chamberlain as the only players with a negative record in the NBA Finals. But that's just the tip of the iceberg for the self-proclaimed GOAT. After abandoning his hometown team on national television, after forming a big 3, after the premature celebrations, LeBron shrunk, shied away from the moment, played scared in the greatest meltdown we've ever seen from a superstar. The 2011 finals were a nightmare. In fact, if we took LeBron's average production from this series and compared it to every finals of his career during his prime, which is considered to be the 25 to 31-year-old range, it's all the way down here. In fact, look at this. That is the production from every finals from our 8 potential GOATs in their prime. LeBron's catastrophe is the second worst finals performance we've ever seen from an all-time great. This should never happen. To be regarded as the greatest of all time, you cannot have this type of performance with everything on the line. The finals losses tainted LeBron's career, but 2011 was the holy grail of choke jobs. The GOAT would never. So, did your GOAT get exposed? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing. I make videos every week and I'd appreciate your support. Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you that my GOAT is